It's not too often that we talk about sports on this show, but this week I came across a few stories at the intersection of sports, race, and politics. It's no secret that sports aren't immune to prejudice. The biases in our society are replicated in our entertainment. This week, the NFL announced it would end the process of race norming in its $1 billion brain injury settlement. Fans were appalled, if not surprised, at the racist practice of assuming black players started out with lower cognitive functioning than their white counterparts. This has made it more difficult for black players to access the money they're entitled to, but the NFL also pledges to review past claims for signs of racial bias and rectify those mistakes. Now, joining me now is Kavitha Davidson, sports and culture writer for The Athletic. Kavitha, walk us through exactly what came out this week, how we learned about it, and what the NFL has done in response.
So basically, I think a lot of your viewers will remember that the NFL had a $1 billion concussion settlement back in 2013 when everybody was talking about the historic lack of acknowledging how much of a role football can play in traumatic brain injury and in a lot of health issues that players have had. Now, what has come out in subsequent lawsuits that we learned about in the last few months, and particularly this week, was that the starting point for the measuring of whether or not cognitive functioning was affected by football was measured at a lower point for black players, which is really a stunning development. And it really took subsequent lawsuits to bring that to light. The lawyers that were representing these players had argued that this was not as common a practice. The NFL itself argued that this was something that was up to doctors' discretion to use. But doctors themselves in these lawsuits representing particularly these two players involved have said that they felt pressured to use race norming as a proper measure. And I think that it's really important to point out that while football is obviously at the forefront of this, this is a practice that is commonly used in medicine. So as we continue to have conversations about how particularly Black Americans are not provided with proper health care the same way that the rest of us are, this is a practice that is actually used that has been disputed within the realm of neuropsychology. And I think that we have to continue to talk about
So the
this.
process basically says that blacks come with less cognitive skills, which therefore affects your ability to access the right kind of settlements as others because you started a lower bar.
You started a lower bar, and therefore the damage done by football can't be as much as it's done to white players who are filing similar claims. And the payouts have seemed to go along with that. And that's really a very stunning and very concrete way to demonstrate some of these inequities that I think a lot of us have been talking about for years.
Now, the issue of race norming is just one part of a larger conversation about safety of professional football and whether the league does nearly enough to care for its players. And, of course, since Colin Kaepernick, we've seen the league struggle with how to deal with players expressing themselves about politics and race. Football remains the most popular sport in the country, but has the NFL done a permanent damage to its reputation here?
I think the NFL has a long way to go to actually demonstrate that it cares about its players, particularly its black players. I mean, we've had so many conversations in the last year throughout all of the leagues about the commitment to Black Lives Matter, to social justice, and to supporting players who want to use their platforms to talk about certain things. But I think what this race norming revelation and discussion has done is point to a much broader conversation, which you can point to even when you're talking about the dearth of black coaches, black head coaches, or the dearth of black quarterbacks, the way that black quarterbacks are talked about in comparison to white quarterbacks. It really does come with this very deep-seated notion that black players are starting as, frankly, less smart or less intelligent on the field than their white counterparts. It's a really pernicious statement, and it's something that pervades a lot of the conversations when we talk about how players are treated in the NFL.
Now, tennis star Naomi Osaka drew attention this week when she withdrew from a tournament over the mental toll the media requirements have taken on her. She later explained that she has suffered long bouts of depression and is finding it hard to cope with that and social anxiety. Now, we all saw Osaka promoting Black Lives Matter on an international stage, often wearing face masks emblazoned with the names of those killed by police. Do you think the fact that she is a woman of color has anything to do with the pressure she's under?
I think it can't be denied that being a woman and a woman of color in a sport like tennis provides different pressures, especially when it comes to confronting the media. I've said this for the last week. I wrote about this at The Athletic. If you grew up watching Serena and Venus Williams' treatment in the media, it's understandable why you might feel a certain level of pressure, a different level of pressure than your white or male counterparts. At the same time, I do think that it's important to understand where some of the media is coming from. I think most of us really are just trying to do our jobs and do a good job at it. But we haven't been the best as a collective of treating athletes, women of color, with the sensitivity and with, honestly, the informed questioning that they deserve. And I think that that's what she was reacting against.
Kavitha Davidson, thank you so much for being with us and enlightening us tonight. Up next, my final thoughts. Stay with us.